Welcome, everyone, to our Asian Mental Health Book Club. My name is Barbara. I'm a therapist here at Yellow Chair Collective, and today I am so psyched to be chatting with Sarah Ahn, co-author of the cookbook Umma and creator of Honest Kitchen. I'm sure that many of us have seen a lot of her viral, heartfelt content sharing the beautiful, bountiful meals that her mom cooks for the whole family, including her dog Maybe, and now another second doggy, Mr. Chicago. I want to start off with a big congratulations, Sarah, to you and your mom for being nominated for a James Beard Media Award. For
Thank you.
Yeah, for anyone unfamiliar, a James Beard Award recognition is like one of the most highest, most prestigious honors in the culinary world. And what's amazing is that you and your mom achieve that, like basically every Asian parent's dream by just like sharing a passion that's like so dear to you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're I mean, if you saw my mom's reaction online, that's exactly how we feel. So we're really honored and we thank everyone for the support because it's I don't know, it's just it's a really big honor.
It is. It's so cool.
I agree.
Yeah. And, so many of us have like watched so much of you and your mom creating food content together. And you also so generously share stories behind the food, like behind your dad's or your brother's giant lunch boxes filled with like 18 different homemade dishes and panchans.
Yeah.
Like that's a video I share to like everyone the first thing of my intro to you. I'm like, look at this amazing lunchbox. And as we all know, food is a huge love language to children of immigrants. And the way that you share your life has resonated so deeply with the Asian American community. Like, I can say that you're probably like one of the people that most people I know follow. And like, they really use a lot of your recipes. As soon as your pre order for your cookbook was available, I ordered multiple just knowing that I'd be able to give them away. Like, I'm like, I know people are going to want this. And when I told people you're going to be on our book club chat, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I actually use her cookbook all the time. I
Oh my
actually
god.
like refer to her recipes all the time." And I think it's so special that you've made cooking Korean food just and this way of connecting to your heritage so accessible to everyone else, whether you're Korean or not, right? Like, and I love that your book just includes so many guides and photos of what to buy from the Korean market, what colors or textures to look out for, how big or small an ingredient should be. Like it's so thorough in allowing readers to just immerse themselves fully into the cooking experience in Korean food. And the book just truly deserves the level of recognition that it's garnered.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. It was truly a labor of love with blood, sweat, and tears. I always joke around with my friends, but it's also not a joke. It probably cut off 3 to 5 years of my life because, as we know, our Asian parents, for the most part, they cook with their hands. They don't know what measuring spoons are. And so, trying to get all that recipe formatted in the best way possible, but also storytelling, it was a labor of love. But I also wanted in Korean, Umma is mom. I felt like in a lot of immigrant households, the best foods are made by Asian mothers, and they don't get the recognition as a great cook, like someone who maybe comes out of culinary school or someone who's young and hip and they're online and so they have a cookbook. I really wanted our Asian mothers, our ummas, really the best cooks that you find in immigrant households to be seen. And I also wanted the working class to be seen because I am also from the working class.
And I think that you've shown that so authentically, and it's clearly just really hit home for so many people because, again, of course, it's nominated for a James Beard Media Award, but it's also just so beloved in Asian households. Your
For
content and
sure.
your stories, because it just touches a very real part of their stories growing up, right? Of down to having to adjust to using measuring spoons now to like translate them into a broader, like audience.
Absolutely.
And it just sounds like things have just really changed a lot in the past few years as you created Honest Kitchen, come out with the cookbook, and a lot is just and thankfully Asian stories are also being celebrated more too. And I
Yeah.
think that the way that you shared, your celebration of you and your mom's life together has just been so touching and inspiring.
Thank you.
And yeah, but with that, I wanted to first ask, it's been a few years since you created Honest Kitchen, right? If anyone here doesn't know, which I'm sure we do, it's your TikTok channel where you share all your recipes to begin with. But
Mhm.
how has your journey been? Like, how has your relationship with yourself changed, like, since starting that journey?
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I apologize for being in the car. I know I told you beforehand, but unfortunately, our dog had an emergency. So I had to quickly pick up medicine here before they closed as I'm going to be out of town and over the weekend, so I
Mhm.
do apologize for this weird car background.
We're just happy to
Um,
have you.
but the journey has changed so much with Honest Kitchen. It once started as a hobby, where I just, again, didn't feel like the Korean mother, again, the immigrant mothers type of recipes was seen yet online. Yes, we have blogs here and there, but they are catered to an American audience, but we didn't see the small things that our Asian mothers do. And so I just started capturing that content online, and I was doing it for maybe 5 years until Honest Kitchen blew up. It wasn't really until I combined my mom's recipes with storytelling that the videos performed extremely well. And I think a lot has changed. Like, it has given us an opportunity to experience life that is sometimes unbelievable, and we are just filled with so much gratitude, but it did take a lot of hard work, a lot of arguments with my mom because she comes from a different generation, I come from a different generation. You know, working with her is an honor, but it's also not the easiest thing ever, and it's just been a really wild journey that's been quite life-changing, but I really do believe that in order to live, if you want an extraordinary life, you have to put in extraordinary efforts. And I think that's what we did with Honest Kitchen, where we're just, like, in awe of everything and just so thankful.
Yeah. And it really is a perfect marriage of you and your mother's like strength, skills, and your backgrounds, right? Coming together to really
Yeah,
create this thing that resonates with so many people. And as you said, it's because of your storytelling, right? Of course, on its own, your storytelling, your mom's cooking, you each have your gifts and strengths, but together it really creates an opportunity, like a window into your lives together to see, like what can people really gleaned from, what you and your mom shared together as mother and daughter, sharing this experience of
absolutely.
learning to cook together and passing on those recipes to you and how that's not always like, picture perfect, smooth, easygoing time. You're still doing
Yeah,
the hard work of confronting a lot of your differences.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, my mom has the restaurant background, and my mom used to own a little cute little takeout noodle shop, so she understands what it means to make food that sells, that actually tastes good. That's what you could see in our cookbook. We do use MSG. It's we either say MSG or Dashita, which is a Korean beef stock company. It's kind of like bouillon powder
Mhm.
or nor, where you just have a little oomph to the taste. But she has the restaurant background. Obviously a talented cook who used to cook for a living to survive here in America. And then my background is in social media marketing, where I have a professional background in that, particularly specialized in videos. And so when we combined those two efforts together, it was just night and day where when we were intentional about it, the video went viral and then people saw it and then we just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, yeah, and one of those places that, it brought you to, I saw in your content was Korea, right? Like,
Yeah.
after and that kind of reminds me of what you said about, yeah, like, the gratitude that you've been experiencing along the journey, but also how incredibly challenging it's been, even though, of course, it's been amazing, it's also been a lot really challenging. And one of the stories that, in your book that really hit me as a child of immigrants was the one where, you 2 traveled there, it's an all expenses paid trip, it's, like, a nice five-star hotel,
Yeah.
and you're finding it hard to fully enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that one, even when you tell me about I tear up because it's one of
Mhm.
those immigrant guilts that we have, even to this day, that, like, you go on these trips and your parents aren't there, they're home out working. And I think see, even I tear up now, which is fine, but I think that stems from a background of growing up maybe not as comfortable. It really gives you a perspective to be grateful, and I just didn't see that in media enough because typically I can't speak for all, but to be able to pursue something in the arts, such as a cookbook, typically when you pursue the arts, you have a cushion where you have the ability to pursue the
Yeah.
arts. And so whenever I, saw someone who was maybe a director or a cookbook author, it's like, oh, okay, their background, their parents are making a decent living. So they have that comfort to pursue such arts. So when I would open up these cookbooks, I would always see, these authors to some degree, they feel like a different person to me because they don't have the same background as me. I didn't see authors that grew up from the working class as much. So I really wanted those stories to be told in there where people were seen and celebrated, where people can understand beyond just the recipes and foods, what these foods mean when we come together at the end of the day, when we're together as a family, after your parents had worked overtime, after your parents have worked in the summer and their skin's a little darker when they come home, what it means to not be able to live paycheck to paycheck and the meals that we have over the table. I really wanted people like that to be seen. And so that story in particular was important to include because I think it's a story that a lot of people can relate to, particularly immigrant kids, and the one that kind of, breaks your heart, but it always reminds us where we come from.
Yeah, and I can see just how much love you have for your family and for your dad who you're thinking of when you were in Korea. And, like,
Yeah, for
that he
sure.
could also just enjoy that amazing experience that you and your mom are sharing together. And I appreciate so much that you do share such a personal moment of that internal conflict we experience as children of immigrants, that immense gratitude of like, wow, life could be so great, and we get to chase opportunities that our parents really did not have the same access to. But
Yeah,
that's also that heartache of seeing our parents not getting that thing, right?
right.
Seeing your dad remembering that he's at home working so hard for 14, 12-hour days.
Exactly.
I wonder, how do you make room for yourself a little bit? Like, how do you give yourself that grace, compassion, just room to have these conflicting feelings?
I mean, I go to therapy. Like, just being very honest, it's for the longest time, I had so much guilt, and sometimes I'm not a perfect person. I've said this on other podcasts and things, and sometimes that guilt can also turn into resentment as well, where you're just like, "Why can't my parents just have planned life where I don't have to worry about them, where I wasn't born into this situation where, possibly we're in debt or things like that." So I can't lie that it's not just a thing where I seem like the perfect daughter full of grace and stuff. It's hard work, trying to process all this information. Excuse me, I have something in my throat. It is hard work trying to process all this information, but I've just learned life is not perfect and you just have to work with what you got. And it was really, really hard at first because I was so lost in my young 20s figuring out how I can make this work. But again, you just have to give yourself grace in the fact of just accepting it and knowing that your parents never did any of things out of bad intent. Life is just
Mhm.
simply hard and they tried their best and it didn't go the way they wanted. And we're just going to work together and get through it. And that was kind of the mindset that I had to quickly learn to do things and succeed at it and not let myself be defined by things that made life a little bit more challenging.
I mean, it sounds like you have been doing your work in therapy of just
Yeah.
really creating that acceptance, right? Of like, this is what it is, and we have our feelings about it, but we also need to work with the reality. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
My brothers told me the term, I'm sure you know what it is, radical acceptance, where you just come to peace with how things are and you just take a step forward. And that was really it. Obviously, Honest Kitchen happened kind of spontaneously, but once I saw that there was opportunity, nothing else mattered. Like all that, like there comes a point where you can see the opportunity and you can get your family out of it and you just become indefeatable with that work. And that's kind of what happened with Honest Kitchen. But the time before that, it was all about learning about radical acceptance and just really accepting your challenges and just trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel and pushing through. And it was hard.
Yeah. I think we're looking for sometimes like an easier answer to someone who seems to have figured it out, right? To seems someone who can hold space for the complexity of being an Asian American child of immigrants. But yeah, you're right. The work is messy. It's gonna
Yeah.
look messy. It feels messy. It feels wrong sometimes, right? Like we're really making room for feelings that, were do just feel really, really wrong inside because maybe
Yeah.
we see our parents struggle and we're like, well, we're not struggling nearly as much. Why can't I just be there for them more? Why can't I just
Right.
kind of buck up, right?
Right.
But that also takes a toll on you to see how much that your parents have struggled and the sacrifices they've made, right? And that's like a theme that you share in your book of the sacrifices that your family members literally, like trade with their bodies, right? Like working so hard, they are really putting in that intense physical labor that translates into mental and emotional labor. One of the essays that you wrote that, like, I really enjoyed was the one about your uncle's hands. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
yeah, like, it's the hands that shape tradition, right? And cooking seems to run in your family because your uncle is also a baker who has,
Yeah,
like, these
yeah.
beautiful, like, little cream, like, buns, but you just write about noticing how working with their body really does change your body, right? It changes you. It changes, like, how you move through the world and, looking at all the labors that your family takes on in service for each other. How has that lens, like, affected how you move through life?
Yeah, the hands about the essay about the hands to me was a really important one. That's actually my college essay that I wrote that inspired by my college essay and what I wrote for to college admissions. I think hands say a lot about people. It really does quickly, physically show if one is possibly in a blue collar work or in office work, for lack of better words. And I only grew up in blue collar work and restaurant work. And every time my dad came home, even till this day, he has, bruised nails and paint, like old paint all over his hands. And you could tell this is a hand, these hands are belonging to someone who has like a crust around his hand because they've become so strong working outside. And
Right.
likewise with my uncle, he is a professional baker. His hand is, if you look at it like this, it's slightly like all of it
I saw the
slanted.
pictures, yeah.
Mhm. It's slightly slanted because he's been rolling dough all day. And then I look at my own hands and, I don't get manicures, but for those who get manicures, we have these perfect uncut hands. My mom also was in the restaurant industry. She would always come home with Band-Aids from prepping the vegetables, and even her hands to this day, they look like a workman's hand. And then
Mm,
when you compare it to our hands, I mean, I can only speak for myself, they look feminine and untouched. And
yeah.
I just thought that juxtaposition of how our hands look so physically different portrayed what they give up for us to have such flawless hands, especially again, those from the working class where maybe your parents aren't engineers, your parents aren't in office work, your parents are at a place where they don't have PTO. So that's something I've always recognized as a kid, and it's just always stuck with me to this day.
And it really is you can see how it from one generation to the next where there is that trade-off, right? Where you're seeing
Yeah,
like, "Wow, your hands look like that, so mine can look like this." You see exactly how their choices have affected your life, which is so that your hands can, as you write, remain unblemished and unblemished.
right.
Right, like and that is a part of, again, that internal conflict as children of immigrants, seeing that we're allowed to have this life where we're allowed to pursue the things we want, we're allowed to just aspire towards more, and we look back and see that, man, our parents look really weathered. They look really tired, right? Like, and
Yeah,
that's something that, I think we all really see with how much your mom puts attention to, like, every single thing that she does, like, every single thing she prepares has, like, all these steps, all these special, like, attentiveness that she really devotes, like, her energy to, and the way she just cares for every single component in a dish is just so meticulous and thoughtful, and it's sometimes hard to really allow yourself to do anything less, right? You're, like,
I
seeing your
know.
your family work so hard, and you're like, "Oh, shoot, should I also be like that?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this, it's in the angel hair pigenkuksu, which is cold angel hair recipe. We talk exactly about that, where you're just, like, questioning if you're allowed to enjoy this or that. And the essay was about how it was a hot summer's day and how my mom and I refused to turn on the air conditioner because how can we turn on the air conditioner, have an expensive electricity bill as my dad is working outside in the 110-degree heat? And what I didn't put in the book, because I didn't want to paint my brother in a bad way, but I don't think he would have been painted in the bad way because it was literally an essay originally that showcased logic versus emotions.
Mm.
In the essay, we talk about how we didn't turn on the air conditioner because it felt like it was being in solidarity with my dad for us to also suffer in the heat inside our home because it just felt too guilty to turn on the air conditioner while he's working and we're cranking up the electricity bill that
Wow.
he's paying for. And then my brother came out of his room. This is the part that's not in the book. And he said, "We can afford this electricity bill and we can afford to turn on the air conditioner and we shouldn't feel guilty. It doesn't make a difference if we also sweat
Mhm.
and now I can't study. It also makes sense to turn it on in this point. Like you shouldn't feel guilty to turn it on and that's not solidarity. You're just suffering unnecessarily." And my brother and I we were like, young adults. We're, arguing back and forth. I don't know if we were shouting, but it did become a heated conversation.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you how much thought process goes into that and how deep it can be sometimes, but sometimes our emotions aren't logical, and so it's really, really interesting, but that part didn't make the book because I didn't want my brother to look like the evil villain.
I mean, even as you're telling it now, he sounds like I would do that.
Yeah, it's very logical, but that's where you see the differences of logic versus emotions, is that sometimes that guilt,
Totally.
don't take it too far because it's just gonna be suffering.
You're absolutely right. There is a level of that pain we feel like we need to take on to be in solidarity with our parents and to show our full appreciation and acknowledgement that they suffered, right? It's almost like we also have to feel the same thing to know what they've been through. When in
Right,
actuality, the reason he's out there working for those hours is so that you can have some air conditioning. Like
exactly.
you can enjoy the day inside. But that is I think it just shows, like, each of you really protecting what is important, right? One is not less than the other, but one is, like, our parents' sacrifice, protecting kind of their story and, like, honoring, like, just how hard they worked for you, and on the other hand, wanting better for yourselves, right? Wanting to just be
Yeah,
more comfortable and allowing yourself to be more comfortable, right? Like
exactly.
yeah. I would love to hear, Sarah, if where do you let yourself just let loose a little bit more and just like maybe it's maybe still a little bit guilt with it, but where do you allow yourself to maybe just enjoy things more or to take some shortcuts sometimes?
That's a good question because sometimes I do struggle with it, and again, why I go to therapy, but I make sure to put boundaries with how much, I don't wanna say guilt, but just how much of myself that I can give. And
Mhm.
it might sound weird because it sounds like some people might think, "What are you talking about? Your parents give everything to you." But there's a lot that goes behind Honest Kitchen and making sure that, you know, my parents are okay. Just so much planning and strategy behind it. Like, I know those videos sometimes look very simple in social media, but all those videos are very strategic so that they, you know, provide for my family and stuff. And so sometimes I just have to make sure I'm aware of my boundaries and how much of that, like, guilt that's not necessary does it manifest into something more.
Yeah.
Because there are times where I felt like a heavy weight on my shoulder and this responsibility for my family. And I just remind myself that I'm only human, I'm only one daughter, and I shouldn't allow myself to feel this much pressure.
Kind of just letting yourself loose of those perfectionist tendencies, right? Where
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's not easy though, because I think, like, again, I know I'm younger than my brother, but I still feel that oldest daughter mentality of making sure I'm there emotionally for my parents, but logically, I also have to be there and find a way to, at that time, retire them. And it's hard, and that's why I keep repeating myself that I go to therapy for it because it's not an easy thing, and it takes a lot of, mental work and, like, stamina to not think too much about it and just take it one step at a time.
Absolutely. It's not like passive work at all to be
Mm-mm.
rewiring your brain, right? To be
Yeah.
kind of getting used to allowing yourself to get comfortable in areas you've never allowed yourself to get comfortable, right? If you're used to really that pressure of, your family is really counting on you, like a lot of children of immigrants experience, then it's
Yeah.
really hard to allow yourself a break because your family is depending on you, right? There's high stakes
Yeah.
here. And it really is a lot of work to soothe those emotions every time and ask yourself is this a feeling or is this a fact, right? Like, is this
Yeah.
something that I need to
And my parents and my mom always said, "You don't need to worry about us, we'll figure it out." And I'm just like, I don't it's not that I'm responsible for them. They never said I was responsible for them, but I love them and I care for them, and I'm not gonna make them do extreme measures just to be okay. Like, I am young and healthy, and if I can help, I'll find a way. But it's just balancing all of that so I don't feel so, so pressured, because I did get to the point where there's so much pressure. I eventually get, like, paralyzed with, like, what do I need to do? But it's just taking it slow and not seeing it like it's fully my responsibility, but just something that I want to give back because I don't want them to work even more so that they could take care of it themselves.
Absolutely. Like, that's that kind of collectivistic mindset where it's like, yeah, you technically are, can provide for yourself and they'll be okay. But no, you want to. You genuinely
Yeah,
want to be there for your parents, right? Like, I know a big part of what you share is like living at home with them still is a really intentional choice that you've made because you love your parents and you still want to be around them and you
yeah,
naturally want to make their lives easier. And that's a part of how you show your care for them. Right,
right,
and it's again, it's thematic throughout the book, just how much you share with your parents, the love that you have for them, and I
absolutely.
I noticed throughout the book that you touch on a lot about kind of the brevity of life and death, and, for a cookbook, I was surprised to kind of find those topics, but also not because you're just sharing so much of the human experience, and I really was touched by how you shared about the story with the ginger jujube tea recipe.
Oh,
With
yes.
with how you and your mom, kind are talking about noticing how beautiful the white flowers in your yard are amidst your dad's illness, right? And how you just that was a moment where you could slow down a bit and just realize how much your family matters to you. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask what was going on for you when you decided to share that story in the book?
That was I appreciate you bringing that story up. That was actually the hardest story to write in the book because I don't know how to phrase it. I'm kind of like ghostwriting for my mom. So it's my mom story, and you'll see it under my mom's name, Umma, colon, and then the story is presented. But then I wrote the story. And that was a very hard story because even right now, the jujube tree that's in our yard has sprouted. And my mom asked me last week, she's like, "Did you notice these new leaves?" And I said, "No." And then, like, weeks later, I'm like, "Did you notice the jujubes are coming out?" And my mom's like, "It's been there for weeks now, Sarah." But the thing is, I fail to notice the beauty in things, and I'm always so busy. Like, here I am apologetically in my car because I'm rushing to get medicine for my dog. Then I have to go home and I have to work on this and that, and then I need to do this and that. I fail to notice the beauty in life because I know what I don't know. I am young. I am naive. I am, to some degree, bliss. And to write an essay where my mom is talking about the opposite of how only when she came close to death, her husband's death, did she see the beauty in the trees and the air around her and things like that. And I really struggled to write that essay because I couldn't relate to what she was saying.
Mm.
And so I think being able to slow down is one of the hardest things that people probably of my age are trying to figure out, especially if you're in the situation of trying to figure out what you're gonna do with your parents and how you're gonna figure out even your own life and what brings you joy. It's hard. And so that essay was very, very hard. And I think it's gonna take time and wisdom to truly appreciate the things around you and to take it slow because I feel like we're all hustling right now to make ends meet. And so I understand both perspectives. But ultimately, we do need to slow down. Otherwise, we're not going to appreciate the small things and feel gratitude.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that really personal story in the book because,
Yeah.
again, I think it resonates with so many people who have, their encounters with death and noticing life around them once that is so near, right? And really being fully able to appreciate how much you mean to each other and what you're doing all this for. Even right now today, like things seem so busy and chaotic, but you're also taking the time out here to, and still kind of continue it today despite, rushing around, right? Which I'm really
For
grateful
sure.
that you're prioritizing also, just being here with us. And as part of noticing, I notice, throughout the book, just how much you and your mom do pay attention to the little things, right? The details, the little details that make up our lives and, to something as big as like a life and death topic, but also to like the smaller joys in life that are also so worth paying attention to. And I know this might be a bit of a strange pivot to this different question, but I can see that common thread of your care to just your loved ones by even how you extend that love and care to your dog, maybe.
Yeah.
And, I think that, we all have seen, videos of maybe getting her meals and she's like, the comments are like, "She eats so much better than I do." And then to see how much thought and care goes into like taking care of maybe how much your mom does for taking care of every single member of the family. And I think it just really speaks to how much, again, you and your mom put in detail to everything because life matters to you and it really
Yeah.
shows.
I will say, like, dogs help so much with mental health.
Yeah.
And they are the joys of our life, Mr. Chicago and Maybe, and I don't know, like, when we faced any challenge, just having a dog has helped us tremendously through thick and thin. Um, yeah, I should have credited them in the book, actually. I just realized I didn't.
They know they're credited. You can do it
Yeah,
in the next one.
yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, but I really wanted to just highlight the very special way that, you've shared like maybe's life because I think it just really reminds us that there is no part of the family, no person, dog in the family who is, who you forget about, whose well-being
Yeah,
that you neglect. It's just so special to see that you're giving him the most amazing life, and now that you have another dog, I'm glad that another dog's gonna experiencing that life, and,
yeah.
you're so right, pets are such a great way to protect our mental health, right? But
I think it's one of the best ways. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
good supplement.
totally, and kind of going along with that, what else is, like, a non-negotiable for your mental health? Like, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're super stressed writing that book in a year or something? Like
Yeah. I'm I'm probably not the best person to ask just because I'm the type of person who is so perfectionist and career oriented. But I am inspired by my mom, who is so balanced and truly like the stuff that I present online about her, they are all real. Some people have comments and saying I forget what they say. I don't even know the term. It's like a term Gen Z use, something farming.
aura forming?
No, not aura farm. It's like they're saying she's making this for clickbait, but I'm just like, I don't even
Oh.
know how to make clickbait. I'm just presenting this as is. But my mom, every day she goes on a 4-mile walk, and I asked her, "Why do you go on a 4-mile walk? You just need 20 minutes of a walk, and you should do strength training." And she says, "No, no, it helps me a lot to organize my thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts, and it helps me a lot to go outside and get sunlight first." She always goes on a 4-mile walk. She always makes sure she gets her nutrition in, taking her supplements and her meals. Like it's a non-negotiable. And she makes sure she gets enough sleep. And she also does these fun TLC stuff like her skincare routine. And she's so routine and I get messages a lot saying like, how does your mom do all of this? Like, does she not have any mental struggles? Because I'm so inspired, but like, is she like mentally like just that strong?" And I remember I presented that to my mom, and we both laughed because my mom isn't like she's not like happy, and that's why she's able to do it. It's just a non-negotiable for her to get through life. And my mom has been through so much that didn't make the book, but what did make the book, a husband that has cancer. We don't talk about this in the book, but dealing with being in a national safety case where your safety is at threat to dealing with, her dad, trigger warning about taking your own life, took his own life. She's been through everything in life that you can imagine that an average person doesn't go through. So of course she has her mental struggles, but she really sticks to a routine that she does not ever stray away from.
Wow, what an amazing role model for you to see that someone who has so much going on internally and such a life to cater to, she is still really prioritizing her wellness because it sounds like she knows that's necessary. That's fundamental to being a human being, right? To just living your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. She sounds like a mental health queen.
Say like let's take it more realistically where you have someone like me who's a perfectionist and not the gold standard of a routine person who has it down. I'm so different from my mom, but the things that I do that are non-negotiable is the first thing I do when I wake up, and I struggle with it sometimes, is I walk my dog and get sunlight. And if it's just one thing that I can get done, that's a good start to my day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You just know what works for you and what you actually do, right? It's
Yeah,
like
I
kind
think
of
setting realistic expectations and not being like, "I'm gonna wake up at 6 AM and I'm gonna go to the gym and then I'm gonna walk my dog," and having this really amazing schedule, but then not being able to do it. It's not setting yourself up for success. It's just have a realistic idea of what you think you can do and accomplish that and then take baby steps.
Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned your mom's routine because I've had clients who will allude to your mom's video, being like, I saw a video of this like 60-something-year-old woman having this incredible routine. I'm just like, how is she so motivated? How's she getting everything done? And I'm like, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, my mom is extreme, but I will tell you again, my mom isn't necessarily so mentally happy that she's able to do it. It's just like the way she sees it is like brushing her teeth.
Yes.
Has to be done.
Yes,
If
it's
she
like
doesn't enjoy
medicine.
it, it has to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a non-negotiable. It's like medicine, right? It's
Mhm.
like just like for a lot of Asian Americans, mental health was highly stigmatized growing up. And like, especially to our parents, the way we frame it to them is like, it's like you have physical health just like you have mental health. And the worst case scenario is you could die, right? And like
Yeah,
the way to not do that is you got to take care of your daily things. And it includes things like brushing your teeth, going out into the sunshine, petting your dog. Right, like
right.
things that just give you life so that you can continue on because like you've said earlier, life is really hard sometimes. There are a lot of harsh realities that we just have to face and know how are we going to cope through it. Right? Like
Yeah,
and most importantly, you're actually going to do it, right? Like instead of your
yeah,
mom's like
exactly.
12-step routine, you're like I'm good if I just walk the dog and get sunlight and that's what works for
Yeah,
you. Yeah, and I love that because that is, like, the realistic version of what so many of, people around our age kind of face, right? Like,
yeah,
we really struggle with the routine, and it's that perfectionism side of us too is also like, "I can't get started unless I'm gonna do everything right." But, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're doing what really works for you.
yeah. I think, like, a good one too is, like, I was always taught to think that, like, someone who wakes up at 6 a.m. is a person who has all their stuff together, but no, I don't function well at 6 a.m. My mom thinks that waking up at 6 a.m. is, like, the best thing to do, and I disagree. And I think people wake up at different times and work differently. Like a creative person, a lot of
Yeah.
memes about it. Like we don't get creative until 11 p.m. I don't think anyone should sleep that late now. That's one self-care thing that I do is I don't sleep late anymore. But I also have accepted the fact that you don't have to do what everyone else around you is doing. Which is
Yeah.
if people around you are saying 6 a.m., get your excuse my language, shit together and go to the gym at then. It's like, no, that's just not how I work, and that's just not my definition of balanced.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it sounds like you're doing what works for you, and that is the hard work, right? Of like kind of trying different things, and really the hard work of letting go of that perfectionist tendency to not get started until you have everything lined up. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. It's just not you, and I'm totally with you on the whole 6 a.m. is not my best time. I also like to do my work in the evening, and
yeah,
that's just when I'll actually do it and when I can actually take care of the different parts of my life. So there's no right or wrong answers, right? We're just kind of finding our way.
yeah, there's no right or wrong answer to a lot of things in life, which I'm learning.
Yeah, oftentimes that's like a very therapy answer, right? It's like, oh, there's no right or wrong answer, but
Yeah. Just
what works
follow
for
what
you?
your gut says, and on that note, I remember a time where, again, my brother's much more logical than I am, but when I was at a point in my life so unhappy at my job, I was telling my brother, like, "I can't see myself doing this until I'm 65, staying at this job, or even, the concept of working this much every day." And he said, "Sarah, that's life, like, this is just adulting." And I'm like, "I don't this isn't the life that I want, though."
Yeah.
And my brother took the path of a very safe career, becoming a doctor, where he finds joy in a job that allows him to help others, but also provides, income for him to pursue his hobbies outside of work. Versus me, I want to feel passionate about what I do all day. But
Mhm.
there's no wrong or right answer. My brother is justifiably allowed to think that, and it's a great path. But it could be the very wrong path for me, which indeed it is, and I want to enjoy my job. And so there's no right or wrong answer for everything in life for the most part.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, there's no right or wrong, there's just acceptance. Like
Yeah,
that you are you and your brother's your brother and your mom is your mom, and it's okay that you all have your different ways that you really thrive and feel most like yourselves and feel like you're living life the way that, feels right for you.
yeah,
And
you only live one life.
yeah, for real.
Make it worth it.
And, the last thing before I open, it up for our listeners, we like to ask all our authors, what is the one thing that you hope everyone knows?
Oh, man. I don't think I've ever been asked that, actually. I always get asked, "What's my favorite recipe?" Um, that is actually a very hard question. I'm gonna keep it so realistic. because this is the recipe I cook the most.
Mhm.
And I think just again, very realistic, but one of my favorite recipes is kerambap, which is egg rice, and every Asian has their own version of it. And then we top it with it's just eggs mixed with already cooked rice, sesame oil, soy sauce, and we top it with Korean seaweed and
Mhm.
avocado. And then you have to have it with a side of kimchi. But the reason why I think everyone should cook that is because when you're busy, you're not feeling your best, and you want a meal that's actually quite nutritious, that has the protein, carbs, and fats, and the probiotics with the kimchi, Kenonbap is the recipe that I cook the most in the book, and it
Yeah.
takes 5 minutes to make. And so I really recommend that if you want a quick recipe. But if you want something that's a bit more wholesome, I would say you should make probably solangtang, which didn't make the cookbook, but that will be coming out maybe next time.
Amazing. Yes. I've definitely had Kenampat before made by, my Korean friends and community, and it is so accessible, and I also do make it for, like, a quick meal.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah. Oh, and to backtrack a little bit, Sarah, I'm not sure if if I just said the question a little bit weird, but, and again, totally, like, thank you for, sharing the Kenampat answer, but, um, what is the one thing that you hope everyone knows?
One thing I hope everyone
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
knows.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Hope
yeah.
everyone knows I just hope everyone knows that whatever you want in life, I always say, "What is so impossible?"
Mm,
And I know that sounds so sometimes like, I know when I was 18, I heard other people say that, it sounded so privileged because sometimes life has so many hurdles. But if you know in your gut that you want something in life, ask yourself, "What is so impossible to achieve that?" And just do whatever you can to get to that point and talk to the right people and find a way because I think there is always a way.
mhm.
And I think it's really important to follow your gut and see where it takes you.
Yeah. Follow
Yeah.
your gut and ask yourself, "What is, impossible about this?"
Yeah.
I think coming from you and your mom, that is, like, just really inspirational because, again, you just got nominated for that James Beard Media Award. You've really been, changing so many conversations around food and, an immigrant parent's love, and it sounds like you're really living that. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Of
sharing your
course.
answers to all my questions, and I will go ahead and open it up to the listeners at this point.